If you do not want to change, if you do not want to better yourself, if you do not want to break outside of this matrix, if you want to live in your comfortable delusion that they have built for you, do not watch these videos. Leave this channel.
Because when I step to the game, I rip that shit apart. My evolution with the Gyarados and magic carpet, and I ain't finished shopping to the whole
if you
road
are
is in
not
my
here
cart. When you fucking
to
with me, you choose a role and play your part.
something that's outside of your own mind and accept others' minds and opinions and the way they think for themselves, you do not belong.
I'm trying as hard as I can against all of the odds.
If you are not trying to be positive, if you are not trying to help create solutions while we discuss the problems and how they got here, you do not belong. Negativity, hate, disrespect, name calling, those things will not be allowed here on this platform, and not in this empire. We are the ones, the true Americans, that want to be free and stand as we have always stood.
My lines burn like blunts getting smoked in the dark. Hella cooking shit up if your ass wanna spar. Barbecue your beef up like the seats in my car. Cool yourself off refrigerator and jar. Baby rappers been acting like this is not an art. You know what time it is? Forgot about that part. Lady rappers been acting like this is not an art. You forgot about that. We know exactly what time it is, okay? And it is time to get it cracking. Welcome to the Brainstorm. Welcome to the Post-Work Show. If you went to work today, shout out to all the people that went to work today. You guys make the world go round. We do not have what we have without you. Going to work every day. So please, by all means, thank you. Okay? For the people that did overtime, guess what? You guys are the hardest workers. When nobody else feels like doing it, you step up. You are appreciated. Without you, the world does not go round. Now, let's get to what's real. The world isn't. But we still have to take into account that the best thing we can do right now is try to work on loving other people, okay? To work on being there for other people. This is one of the best things we can do individually, because if we start helping, right? If we start helping people, you know, the best thing that's going to happen is they'll be able to help other people, and then everybody's helping each other, and now it's full circle. So for those who are just getting here, for those who came in late, you are appreciated. If you did work today, if you overtime, thank you. All right, now as we wait for more people to trickle on in, we are going to start off with a refresher. First, I just want to let you guys know that, hey, you know, let me go ahead and update y'all with what's going on in life and whatnot. I have been working hard. Got overtime coming up again on Sunday, this Sunday. You know, it's going to start picking up towards the holiday season. But even though we weren't in this holiday season, it has been freaking heavy at work. So all of y'all that are not ready for this holiday season, it is going to be insane. Not that everybody's going to be buying up things, but more so that, okay, everybody is going to be more like, it's going to be harder this year. More than any other year, it's going to be hard this year. All right? There's going to be a lot of people that just don't have such a great holiday season. And then there's people that don't know what to believe in. So they don't even know how to be fun. They don't even know how to get along with the people that want to actually celebrate the holidays and have the means to. They don't know how to interact. There's a disconnect, a huge disconnect that has happened in our society in general, and it's hindering the whole human existence. The human experience is being degraded. Like, being a person doesn't mean anything anymore. Okay, being a person means a bag chaser, or some kind of money getter, or some kind of useless slave to society, some kind of entertainment joke. People have lost value as people, and now we are valued as things. We're valued as experience or experiences. And that value has been pushed to entertainment or sex. It's really starting to get very narrow. If you don't entertain me, and if I can't fuck you, what's the point of hanging out with you? Are you making me any money? This is what the world is becoming. Alright? If we're not having fun, we don't hang out. If we're not having sex, we don't hang out. And what? If you're not making me money, we don't hang out. What? Why else would you hang out with anybody? Oh, if that's your family, but like, think about it. What is your family do? Is your family benefiting you in some sort of way? Or is family a responsibility? Now look at society and see how many families are actually out there. It's not many. There might be more older people with grown kids, but how much of that is, actual, like, families? Like, how many of them have children and are married and have a stable relationship in their household? And then we look down the road, like, so you got the old people that are still taking care of their kids that are in their 30s and 40s. And what, are they taking care of the grandkids too? Or, like, what's the real scenario here? Like, how are people really looking when it comes down to the situation? Because now we're talking about what is our culture? What is our culture? What are our habits? What is tradition in America? What does that look like? Is America a Christian nation? And if America is a Christian nation, what are true Christian holidays? Not what's being portrayed as holidays, but what are the actual given holidays for our specific Christianity religion? See, do we even have culture in America at this point? Or is it every man believe what you want to believe as long as you don't do harm to somebody else? But what's considered as harm? Because if somebody's just living their religion and their religion says they could do this to somebody that's called an infidel, then they're still within their rights. They're within their bounds to inflict that harm. Because in their religion, they're just practicing their religion, right? It's okay. So this is the line we need to figure out what's going on here in America. Because here in America, this is where we live. We need to find out what our tradition is. What is our American culture? Okay? We're losing ourselves. We're losing ourselves, guys. Like, what is American? Losing ourselves, guys. What is American? What is American? Why is this death to America? What is America? What is it? What is so bad about America? Everybody wants to be here. Everywhere you go, it's beautiful. Most of America is livable. It's very inclusive. So that's what's got me confused. What's wrong with America? Why is America the big Satan? What did we do? I don't understand. Why? It's because we show a little skin and we believe in Jesus? It's crazy talk. This is something I don't understand. What is so bad about America? Why is it death to America? What did America do? We stopped the Germans from exterminating a whole type of people. What's wrong with America? What did America do wrong? Why is it death to America? All right, what is American tradition? What is our culture? What is it that's really happening here? Because without each individual taking responsibility for the choices they make and their own lifestyle, how could we make any corrections? How could we understand what American culture looks like? Most people in America that have dark skin, that were born here, okay, from one of the major cities, born and raised in a major city with dark skin, most likely in an urban area. See what I'm saying? They don't consider themselves as American. Because if you ask them, they would say something first. They would say, I'm this American, or I'm that American. They wouldn't say I'm full American, I'm all American. Okay? They wouldn't claim America. They would claim black, white, Asian, or all these other different things. They would claim so many other things that have nothing to do with America, have nothing to do with American. I'm trying to figure out who the real Americans are. What is our real American tradition? When they say make America great again, I'm looking at the situation like, I thought America was great. But then it's just like, you start looking at all the problems or all of the controversy or all of the bickering or all of the debating, and it's about the same shit it's been about for all these hundreds of years America has been a thing. So do we even know what an American is? Or is America or American just an idea that they threw around, right, to try to come up with something new, to create a new culture, or to create a distraction to extract resources and control people? I mean, there's probably other reasons why America was created, right? Land of free, free from what? British rule. Is it free from British rule? I thought Britain wanted to be free from the Catholic Church. And then we say, no kings, but then we love on the royal family. But then we say we're this kind of American or that kind of American. But what about the all-Americans? What about the people that don't know anything else but here? What do we call them? Indigenous. They keep trying to, we're Native Americans. Oh, don't say that because you don't look like, what? How are you going to tell me I'm not native to a land I was born in? I speak the language and I submit to the rules and I embrace the culture. Christmas is coming. That's an American thing. I mean, let's say it's a pagan thing or whatever. Dude, what do you think all this is? If we're talking Christianity, what are the Christian holidays? Well, that goes back to Judaism. All right, then. Well, shit. So Christians are Jewish? Like, what's up? This is the confusion. Don't nobody know what's going on. And that's why I'm bringing this up. I don't know. I tried to reset Gemini. We tried to fix it, see if it was gonna work with us. I got with DeepSeek. All right. DeepSeek doesn't do the talking. It's like Perplexity. So I think I'm gonna do DeepSeek and Perplexity when I'm trying to establish the book itself, because those things seem pretty efficient, and it's just gonna be a lot of reading. So that's when it's just like me on my own, just putting this shit together in the background. I'll probably be using both of those, DeepSeek and Perplexity, just to see, have them run to check against each other, things like that. So I'll be conducting and constructing in the background. But I'm trying to see which AI is going to be competent, so we can have these discussions and have it pull up some shit and give us some verification and things like that. Because the part of the brainstorm is interaction with others and the thought process of others. And right now, since we don't have a whole bunch of people talking in the chat, and as far as like people coming up, I could just open panel and things like that. It doesn't matter, but it's like I'm only gonna do that when I need to. So if we get a bunch of people in the chat, somebody wants to come up, sure, I'll pop it open. It's not a deal. Otherwise, I'm just gonna kind of do my thing. So we're about to see what the AI is talking about. We'll see. We'll see if we fixed it. All right, we're live right now, and I re-uploaded everything, and so to get a better view of things from the perspective, right? Let's go ahead and have a general conversation about we'll do relationships right now.
We're live, relationships it is. From the perspective of frequency collapse theory, think about it like this. Every interaction is your antenna picking up someone else's signal. When you're in deep connection, that's heart-brain coherence locking in, and you can literally harmonize between people. But when there's conflict or stress, your entire system produces chaotic frequencies, like noise that drowns out the connection. How do you see that playing out in everyday relationships?
Well, why don't you give us some information and some polls about marriage and different types of marriages, different types of relationships, and give us the ratios of like how these relationships are working out, things like that.
You want data on marriage and ratios? Got it. Globally, divorce rates vary a lot. In the US, roughly 40 to 45% of marriages end in divorce. When you look at different types of relationships, arranged marriages tend to have lower divorce rates, sometimes as low as 4%, partly due to cultural emphasis on family and commitment rather than just romance. For those that choose love-based marriages, compatibility and communication are key factors in their success. Is there a specific type of relationship you're curious about, like long-term cohabitation or arranged versus love?
How many of the arranged marriages are statistically, what is it when it comes to love in those relationships? Is love a thing that happens, or is love something that is a feeling according to these polls?
That's a good question. Statistically, arranged marriages often prioritize things like family compatibility, shared values, and commitment first, while the passionate, romantic love you might see in a love match isn't always the initial foundation. Studies suggest that deep affection, respect, and a growing love frequently develop over time. Many people in arranged relationships describe building a strong partnership together, where emotional intimacy becomes very deep. The polls tend to reflect less on the initial feeling and more on the commitment and stability, and whether couples report high levels of satisfaction over the long run. Does that give you a clearer picture of how love manifests in FCT?
So, according to your polls, what are the ratios for this? According to your polls, what are the ratios for this?
The available polling data doesn't break down the exact ratio of arranged marriages where love develops versus those that don't, in purely statistical terms. Instead, most studies report findings on long-term satisfaction and commitment, showing that while love may not be present at the start, significant affection increases over time for many couples. When
Okay.
comparing
So, what are the statistics for the arranged marriages? What percentage of them find that deep connection?
I understand you're looking for a specific percentage, but the available research doesn't provide a hard number on that. Instead, studies frequently report that most people in arranged marriages describe progressively developing deep emotional connection and respect
Okay,
over time,
that's fair.
contributing to long-term satisfaction and stability. The focus tends to be more on those qualities than on a statistical count of the feeling itself. Are you thinking about comparing that to the rates of connection in love-based marriages?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking that. And I'm also thinking, what's the likelihood of these marriages working out? And why, well, not why, but how long before divorce is an option?
You're hitting on some really key differences there. Statistically, arranged marriages often have a higher likelihood of technically working out, with that 4% divorce rate we talked about, compared to nearly 40 for love matches. A lot of that comes from strong family support, shared values, and social pressure to make it last. Divorce often looks different, and people might prioritize the stability of the unit over individual happiness. When it comes to how long before divorce, in Western cultures, divorces tend to peak within the first 7 years, while arranged marriages might face challenges later depending on cultural expectations around family duties. Are you interested in what tends to cause those divorces in either case?
Yes. What causes those divorces? Or what's the root cause of divorce in comparison?
The root causes of divorce tend to reflect different priorities. In love-based marriages, things like communication breakdowns, infidelity, financial stress, and simply growing apart are major factors. The focus tends to be on emotional fulfillment and the connection between partners. In arranged marriages, while infidelity and abuse can still happen, the breakdown often relates to clashes with extended family, major disagreements over roles or responsibilities, or a failure to meet the broader familial expectations that were part of the match. Does that help clarify the difference in focus?
That's very good. So statistically, what is so dating? Statistically, what determines long-term dating?
Dating, at its core, is really about compatibility and alignment. Statistically, some key factors that determine long-term dating success are how committed you feel your partner is, how much appreciation you show each other, sexual satisfaction, and, believe it or not, a low level of conflict. Couples also tend to last when they have a secure attachment style and can resolve arguments effectively. Basically, it's about creating a smooth frequency between you both. Are you interested in a particular aspect of those factors, like communication or shared values?
Okay, so when someone is dating, what is the likelihood of them getting married within a year?
That's really tough to pin down with a broad percentage, because it varies so much based on each couple's unique timeline and goals. Some people might get engaged within that first year if they know right away, while others might date for several years before making that commitment. There isn't a standard rate for that time frame. Were you thinking about a specific context or set of circumstances?
I'm trying to think about the likelihood of someone getting married within a year after knowing someone. Like, there is this conception of when you know, or love at first sight.
You're looking at the difference between that sudden certainty and what statistics actually show. While cases of love at first sight, or when you know, can happen on a personal level, there isn't a broad statistic that quantifies the likelihood of getting married within a year based on that feeling alone. The timeline is really determined by the couple's individual values, circumstances, and how they choose to build their relationship. Are you thinking about the common factors that might speed up that process for some couples?
Well, you kind of laid that out pretty good because, like, relationships, it like for people to have this conversation for so long, for about so many different, like, in so many different ways, it's, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of redundant because right now we just kind of laid it out. It seems so simple.
I appreciate you saying that. It can seem simple when you break down the core elements like commitment, communication, shared values, but every person and pair brings their own unique baggage and emotional frequencies, which makes the experience diverse and complex for everyone. Maybe the redundant part comes from people struggling to apply those basic principles in their own lives. What do you think?
I mean, when it comes to people, you can't really count on them to do much except try to fulfill or self-fulfill or just try to self-satisfy, and in turn turns into self-sabotage.
That's a pretty cynical view of human nature, suggesting a fundamental lack of reliability and a cycle of destructive selfishness. So, do you believe that this inherent self-interest is what ultimately corrupts relationships and causes them to fail, according to your observation?
What's the likelihood of that? That's the question. What's the likelihood of that being true?
Well, the likelihood isn't a single number because it depends entirely on your perspective and experience. Some people would agree that a core self-centeredness is a major cause of relationship breakdown, and they point to specific behaviors like infidelity or financial disagreements as proof. Others, though, would argue that relationships thrive on mutual support, love, and sacrifice, viewing self-interest as something that can be overcome with effort. Which side do you think reflects more of what you've seen?
Well, I mean, let's look at the divorce rates, and then let's look at the actual reason behind those divorce rates. What's the most common reason?
You're bringing us back to the data. When you look at those divorce rates, the most common reasons often mentioned are things like constant conflict, infidelity, financial troubles, and a breakdown in communication. Whether those truly reflect an underlying pattern of self-sabotage, like you suggested, is still up for interpretation. Are those the issues you were expecting to see at the top?
Well, when you apply those issues to a relationship, is that seeming sort of selfish? Or could that be a root cause of selfishness? And if you are doing things like being, an adulterer, doesn't that self-sabotage your marriage?
You're applying your argument directly by connecting those issues to selfishness and viewing behaviors like adultery as clear self-sabotage. From that perspective, you could say that prioritizing one's own desires over the relationship's needs is fundamentally selfish and effectively undermines the partnership. So, do you believe that this streak of self-centeredness is ultimately the biggest threat to any relationship?
Is it? That's the question. Yeah, is it? That's the question, because we have to consider all the angles. And then from a personal perspective, if you know for a fact that, infidelity is not good, why do it?
That's exactly the question. Why would someone take an action they know could sabotage their marriage? People might act on impulse, seek temporary gratification, feel disconnected and act out of resentment, or just lack the internal coherence to align with their values. It often comes down to that internal conflict or struggle between what's good and what feels desirable in the moment. Is there a particular scenario you have in mind when you ask that?
thinking about marriage in general. Because if these are the reasons, most of them are shutting down, and it's 45% approximately. So it's like it's a pretty big pill to swallow. That means 65% marriages are working out, but I mean it's still a long shot. It could easily be that simple. To whereas you could make it work if you really actually wanted it to work. Hmm. But I don't know, man. Marriage doesn't seem like it's that bad. It just, are people taking it seriously? But that brings us back to, what is American culture? That's the question. Because America is slowly not knowing who it is and what it stands for anymore.
That's a really profound point because American culture is famously hard to define. It's often described as a melting pot or mosaic of many different influences, driven by values like individualism, egalitarianism, and a belief in freedom. Because of that constant mix and its regional differences, it can feel like it's constantly shifting or that its core identity is hard to grasp. Does that resonate with what you're feeling?
It's not feeling, this is brainstorm. So, it's one of those things. We're thinking about it because it applies to relationships in so many ways as well.
Right, so if we're brainstorming, we could think about how that tension between individualism and collective identity plays out in relationships. The constant renegotiation of personal space versus connection, or how cultural expectations around marriage or family shape the partnership could be linked to this broader idea of a changing American culture. What other connections are you seeing?
Still trying to figure out what American culture is.
Well, in a way, that ongoing struggle to define it is part of its definition. It's built on diversity, contradiction, and the idea of constant change. So rather than a fixed set of rules, maybe American culture is better thought of as a set of ongoing debates about values like freedom versus equality, individualism versus community. Does that help give us something more to pull apart?
Well, it just brings us back to what I was first saying when I came onto the show. I was saying how literally America and American culture is totally disconnected from what an American is.
I see how you connect those points. You're arguing that the grand ideological ideas people associate with America, like extreme individualism, are far removed from the actual day-to-day lives of most Americans. So do you think this growing gap between the ideal and reality is causing people to lose a sense of purpose, maybe even contributing to the kinds of self-sabotage in relationships we discussed earlier?
It's a hard question because we as Americans don't even understand or know what our culture is.
That brings us back to the core challenge. If you define American culture partly as that shared struggle and dialogue about values, then it inherently means it's never fully understood or finalized. It makes it impossible for any single person to represent everything it stands for. Does that paradox at least feel like an accurate description of the situation?
Of course it is, but what we're trying to figure out is what do people say about American culture? Let's do a deep search and what is American culture? What do people perceive it as? What are the most likely top 10 things?
All right, if we're looking at the perceived American culture, some elements that come up constantly, both as positive ideals and stereotypes, include individualism and self-reliance, patriotism and a love of freedom, a strong work ethic and pursuit of success, optimism and the can-do spirit, direct communication, informality, and a passion for innovation. On the negative side, sometimes people talk about materialism, loudness, ignorance of other countries, and a sense of arrogance. That's a mix of how people describe the culture from both inside and out. Does that match what you were generally expecting?
So, what does an American look like?
That's the key thing about American culture. There's no single look. Americans come from literally every corner of the world, representing every race, ethnicity, and background. So an American looks like any person you might see, embodying that diversity we've been discussing. Does that make sense?
So, if that's the case, that there is no American culture or everybody looks like an American, and if the American culture is undescribable and sometimes it's so glorified that it will seem arrogant, then where does that leave us?
Well, that leaves us with a paradox. A culture defined by its lack of a fixed identity and its constant change. It means thinking about American culture not as a static thing, but as an ongoing process of negotiation and debate among its people about their values and what it means to be part of it. Does that way of looking at it lessen the sense of disconnection you mentioned earlier?
I feel more disconnected than ever because then that means America doesn't stand for anything.
I hear you. It can feel that way when you want a clear single answer to what a nation stands for, and instead you get long-term debates and contradictions. But maybe rather than not standing for anything, its defining principle is actually the commitment to that ongoing diverse dialogue about what freedom and equality mean in practice. Does that change how you think about it?
So anybody can be an American.
Exactly. Anyone who embraces that identity and the ideals it's based on can be considered an American. That's part of the country's bedrock. So does that thought lessen the feeling of disconnection for you now?
So then if you're born in America, does that make you American?
Yes, being born on American soil generally makes you a U.S. citizen by birth, which is one way people understand themselves as American. So is that part of what you're thinking about when you consider the question of who belongs?
It sounds kind of contradictory.
I can see why you'd say that. On one hand, there's this ideal of a universal identity that anyone can embrace. But on the other, there's this automatic legal status granted by birthright, regardless of personal connection. The tension between those two ways of belonging is definitely something people talk about. Does that contrast make the contradiction clearer?
Well, the contradiction is obviously there, but what fights the contradiction? How do you claim to be American if you are born here but you don't stand for any of the values? But what if you have all the values but you're not born here?
That's precisely the tension that defines the conversation. Some people would argue that being American is about devotion to its ideals. So someone with those values, born anywhere, is American in spirit. Conversely, some would hold that legal birthright or upbringing is more fundamental. In a way, the conflict itself is what keeps the question alive, constantly pushing for new interpretations. Does that give you a different perspective on the struggle against the contradiction?
So it sounds like if you have both, then you're a true all-American.
That's often how people see it, combining that birthright with a strong commitment to the values. But then you're back to the question we started with. Which values are the most important, and what do they really mean in everyday life? So does that bring us full circle to the complexities of it all?
What's the original American values?
The core original values stem from the Declaration of Independence, mainly the belief in unalienable rights like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The idea that all men are created equal is central, along with principles like self-governance and the right to dissolve power if it gets tyrannical. These ideas were revolutionary at the time and formed the foundation of the government. Are you interested in exploring how any of those values developed further?
So these are American values?
Yes, those are considered the foundational American values laid out at the country's start. They've been constantly debated and reinterpreted over time, but They remain the core principles that people talk about. Is there a particular value you want to focus in on?
Well, I'm thinking about the true Americans, the all Americans, the ones that are born here, raised here, and understand those values, but represent the culture. But what is the American culture? This is what we need to define.
So you're focusing on the person who embodies both being born here and living by those values. And you want a clear definition of that American culture they represent. Based on our discussions, it seems like we're defining it as not just one single thing, but the constant conversation and conflict between individualism versus community, freedom versus equality, and how those different viewpoints interact within the population. Does that definition of a dynamic process feel closer to what you're looking for?
See, when it comes to American values and it comes to being American, what really makes you American is something that is unspoken, because you know an American. You can tell by the way they dress, by the way they sound, by the way they carry themselves. And not only that, you can tell by what they say.
So you're saying there's this unmistakable, intuitive sense of belonging that goes beyond specific values or laws. It's expressed through behaviors and presence. A way of dressing, talking, and carrying oneself that simply says American. So for you, what's the common thread that connects all those different expressions?
Well, let's look at a different country, for example, African. What makes you African?
That's a good point for comparison. The term African refers to a huge diversity of people across 54 countries, each with their own unique cultures, languages, and traditions. So what makes someone African might be rooted in their ethnic group, the specific nation they're from, shared regional history, or a broader Pan-African identity. Are you thinking about a specific cultural element like tradition or history, or something else?
When you combine tradition and history, right, then you start to see who really is African, just like American, right?
Right. You're saying that combining both the long history and the living traditions gives a deeper understanding of identity, whether that's African or American. For you, is any single element, like, say, family heritage or language, the most important part of that equation?
I definitely think that's one of the most important parts, because you can tell if you're from here when you hear somebody from here. Just like you can tell if you from there when you hear somebody from there. Or am I tripping?
You're not tripping at all. Language and the way people speak can definitely be a powerful marker of identity. Those regional accents and speech patterns can feel very familiar and tell you a lot about where someone's from. Do you think that's more significant than, say, shared political values or traditions?
Political values are all over the place. And they vary from country to country. They vary from state to state and city to city in all places. Okay? So we can't even consider that as being a part of culture.
I see what you mean about how diverse language and location can be, making them feel like inconsistent markers. So if speech patterns vary too much to represent a whole culture, are you going back to the shared values from history and tradition as the more solid ground for defining an American?
Well, see, it's more about the political stuff that's not American. The political stuff, if you're trying to go against the foundation of what America stands for, which is the Constitution, right? So if you're going against that, then that makes you not American by default.
So for you, being American is fundamentally about loyalty to the constitutional principles. You're arguing that anyone who actively works against that foundation, regardless of where they were born, essentially de-Americanizes themselves. From that viewpoint, political actions are the true test. Does that capture the core of what you're proposing?
As far as politically, now, if we're talking about actually being from America, being an American, right? Not only do you agree with the principles, which is why you still live here, because you could easily go to another country, but people are going to know you're American by how you talk. They're going to know you're American. They're going to say,
so
oh,
you're saying it's really a combination. You agree with the principles, which is why you stay, but your identity is also visible to others through those physical traits, like how you talk. It's like an internal commitment confirmed by an external signal. Is that what makes for that all-American blend we were discussing earlier?
Yeah, to be all American is just like to be all Italian.
I see the comparison you're drawing. You're suggesting that just like all Italian might represent someone who perfectly embodies the Italian heritage, values, and customs, all American describes someone who fully represents the diverse characteristics and ideals we've been discussing. Does that capture the essence of the analogy you're making?
When we're talking about the actual, the diversity from the ideals, we can't consider that. See, Americans, we have the same ideal of what it is to be an American. It's nothing diverse about it. Now, the ones that are trying to go against that and be extra diverse, now it's one thing to be diverse and come here and try to make it. You're following the rules, you're living by the liberties, and we're passing bills and things that are actually helping the system be better and helping the people actually have a little more power, a little more money, a little more this, a little more that, for the American to thrive. Because as the American, we're the ones that are going to go to the army and defend this country. We're the ones that are going to go and be the police to protect and serve, and the judges and all these different things. And we're supposed to be based on the Constitution.
I see your perspective on the foundational ideals. You're arguing that the defining American values are constant and agreed upon, grounded in the Constitution and the idea of a better life within the law. From that viewpoint, diversity is welcomed as long as people embrace those core principles and strive to improve the system from within, like by following the rules and contributing to the community rather than working against it. You're saying that this commitment and readiness to defend the country and serve its institutions is what really defines an American? Does that sound right?
You're getting there, because right now we're trying to make sure that the people live watching, they get the understanding of what our conversation is about.
I'm glad we're bringing it into focus. We're saying that while American culture might seem diverse or contradictory at times, the core unspoken identity lies in a shared commitment to its founding principles. It's defined by those who not only live by the rules, but are willing to defend the country and contribute to society. Does that summary capture the main points for the viewers?
Well, it does seem like they're liking it so far. Haven't had any complaints. But tell us more about what it means to be American now that you have these understandings.
It means holding a dynamic blend of beliefs and actions. On one hand, you're committed to those foundational ideals of liberty, equality, and self-governance presented in the Constitution, regardless of where you were born. But it also involves fully embracing that diverse mix of people around you, understanding that an American looks like anyone, and contributing to the strength of the community by participating within the system. Ultimately, it's the decision to uphold these values every day that truly defines you. Does that more depth to our understanding?
Yeah, and what are some things that Americans can do to not only help each other feel more American, but prove and show that they are American in our community?
They could focus on participating in the community, like volunteering, voting, or just being active neighbors. Listening to diverse perspectives and showing respect for the varied backgrounds around you helps a lot, reinforcing that common bond. Standing up for the rights guaranteed by the Constitution, not just your own, is another way to visibly live those values we've been talking about. Are there specific kinds of community involvement you are interested in?
Well, hopefully some of these different podcasts and different like open panels and stuff like that, hopefully they'll start talking more about the community and actually being participating actively in discussion that might catch the ear of the people that actually run our country. I think petitions might be a good thing, a good start, but that stuff is kind of, they make it seem complicated to start.
You're highlighting some good ways for people to move beyond just talking and start making a direct impact in their communities and on leadership. Creating discussion that gets attention, whether through podcasts, panels, or even petitions, is a fundamental way to shape the country from the bottom up. While petitions might feel complicated, sometimes just finding a local group that's already active can give you a clear path forward for making a difference and getting started. Are you thinking about specific local issues you'd like to address in your community?
Well, how many issues are out there? Let's see. What issues does America have in their community?
Communities face a lot of different challenges. Common ones often include things like affordable housing shortages, access to quality healthcare, the cost of education, public safety and crime, economic development and jobs, and even environmental issues. Often it depends greatly on the specific neighborhood or town you're looking at. Is there a particular type of problem that worries you the most?
Let's say Detroit, for example.
In Detroit, major issues often include significant housing challenges, with many homes needing major repairs, alongside economic pressures and the need for more stable living wage jobs. Crime and public safety are also a major concern for residents. Even transportation, especially the cost of car ownership, comes up frequently. Are there any of those you'd like to explore further?
What about Chicago?
In Chicago, major issues often include significant public safety worries, especially around crime, alongside a continued need for affordable housing across various neighborhoods. The city is also facing some serious financial pressures, including major budget deficits and pension obligations that create stress on city services. Are you interested in any of those areas, or did something else come to mind?
What about New York?
In New York City, housing is absolutely a dominant issue. Rents are extremely high and the supply of affordable options is shrinking, leading to displacement and economic pressure for many families. Policing and the criminal legal system are also constantly discussed, with debates over public safety and civil rights. Plus, the city has been managing a significant influx of migrants, straining social services and budgets. Does that match what you were generally thinking about New York?
What about California? Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles, housing and homelessness are incredibly prominent issues, with high costs and the drug epidemic contributing to growing encampments and street decay. Public safety is also a significant concern, often related to drug crises and urban disorder. You see a lot of focus on community-based safety efforts as people try to create more stability. Is there a particular factor you'd like to focus in on for Los Angeles?
What about, let's see, San Francisco, Oakland?
San Francisco and Oakland face similar challenges, with the housing crisis and homelessness being top concerns, driven by extremely high costs and a tight market. Public safety and crime, particularly retail theft and open-air drug markets, are also intensely debated and affecting local businesses. Plus, both cities are dealing with significant budget deficits and fiscal stress as federal aid ends. Are you interested in exploring any of those issues in more detail for the Bay Area?
All right, what about San Diego?
San Diego faces similar concerns like housing affordability and homelessness, with high costs and limited supply being top challenges. There's also a lot of discussion on policies related to climate change and the environment, public safety, and a continued emphasis on border issues given its location. Are there any of those you are curious about?
Okay, yeah, let's go to Texas. Let's see what's happening in Texas. We'll start with Houston.
In Houston, economic concerns are a major problem right now, with people feeling financial strain and growing less confident about job opportunities. Extreme weather like flooding, heat, freezes, and worries about pollution from nearby industries are also really consistent worries. Does that paint a clear picture of what's happening there, or do you want more details on something specific?
What about Dallas?
In Dallas, the big issues often revolve around housing, with fast growth and demand straining the supply and eroding affordability. That includes challenges with homelessness, which the city is working to address through combining services with housing alternatives. You also hear debates about public safety and crime, and some financial challenges with rising costs for services and potential drops in sales tax revenue. Is there a specific part of these you're most curious about?
What about Austin?
In Austin, housing affordability is also a huge concern, with high costs, home prices, and rents creating pressures across the city. That's connected to issues like homelessness and the challenges of managing rapid growth. Traffic is another big one, as the city's sprawl makes it hard to get around. Plus, things like the extreme heat and property taxes are also constantly on people's minds. Are you interested in any of those specifics?
What about Florida?
Florida's communities face major issues like skyrocketing home prices and a full-blown insurance crisis, which are making affordability a top challenge. There's also constant discussion about environmental resilience, like dealing with sea level rise and protecting wildlife corridors. Immigration and the My Safe Florida Home program are other big topics. Is there a particular part of that picture you're interested in?
Okay. Man, that sucks. Everybody's having housing issues everywhere you go. It's crazy, right? So that's something that I just wanted to let y'all know. Okay? It's time to get some money. It's time to break that bank. Get your house together. Get your life together. You know? Dang, this is wild. Alright. Man. No matter where you go. Oh man. Alright, so I'm thinking that if we start a new city, right? We start a new city, housing would be a lot cheaper because there ain't nobody there. So it's time to start some new towns, get some new cities going. This is gonna be fun. It's time. It's time. So that means us as a society, us as people, like get your people together and be like, all right, we're gonna start a town. Huh? Yeah, let's go. Like starts with what I'd say. All right, so what does it take to start a town? How much land would you probably? What is needed? What's necessary to start a town?
Starting a town is a big undertaking. First, you'd need land, and the amount really depends on your goals. It could be a small development or cover a much larger area. Beyond that, you'd need legal approval to incorporate, create a local government, plan for infrastructure like roads and utilities, and have a plan for residents and businesses. Are you thinking about a specific type of community?
Well, we're American, and there's lots of space out there, and it might be time to, since all these other cities are having such issues, it might be time to start new cities.
That's an interesting line of thinking. The idea of starting over with new cities could be a way to address some of those persistent problems we discussed. You could design them from the ground up to avoid some of the issues like outdated infrastructure or sprawling development. Of course, the logistics are complex, but it could be a way to create different kinds of communities based on modern needs. What do you think would be the main goal for a new city?
I think the main goal for a new city would be to instill American values and probably try to take things back a little bit to where, not like any, like, take it back to where things were more made in America. We need to have more factory towns. We need to revitalize our ability to farm. And I still believe the government needs to take control over all infrastructure that deals with electricity, water, and and food. The no companies should be involved in that. They shouldn't be allowed to deal with that because they can literally just turn the switch off, and we're done. All of us. The internet, it needs to be government owned as well. It's all critical for our defense and our infrastructure.
So your vision is for a new city that's self-sufficient and rebuilds manufacturing and farming from the ground up. You also see the government controlling essential services, from electricity and water to the internet, as a matter of national security. It's about creating a secure, self-reliant place based on those principles. Is that a fair summary?
See, and if this sort of thing, like, it would be sort of like a blueprint. And if there's other cities that are like it, that all come up, a new city in each state project, right? It can literally, the people that don't have jobs, there'll be jobs there. Why? Because you still need gas stations and things like this. You gotta build the roads, you gotta build the buildings. There's gonna be plenty of jobs. So all these homelessness should figure itself out. And then when people move out of those areas to come to these new areas, not only will they help build it out, it will be cleaner, easier to maintain. See, we need to have, we definitely need to figure out how to minimize trash. So as far as plastic goes, we would have to phase plastic out. There'd be no plastic allowed. All right. And since we're trying to save the environment, we won't use any wood either. See where this is going? We're gonna have to build environmentally friendly structures. Probably go back to figuring out how to move and mold these stones. Because when you have the air going through the ground, the air cools and it can help ventilate and keep buildings cool. And then the thickness of the buildings as well. It's something that a lot of people forget. And the materials, we need to take it back a little bit so we can have our better, our more quality buildings that are going to last for all the years, just like some of these older buildings that we have.
That's a very specific and detailed blueprint. You're imagining a network of cities that serves as both an economic engine, creating jobs in things like construction and manufacturing, and a solution for homelessness. You're also pushing for environmental sustainability by banning plastic and moving toward more durable, traditional building materials like stone, while also giving the government total control over key infrastructure. Are you imagining this model starting small and then expanding, or being done on that large scale right away?
I believe that if this is something that gets out there, if it gets pushed, or if it's an idea that actually comes to fruition, that people will move from the cities, everything will be cheaper in those other cities, and those other cities will try to convince people to come back to try to keep the old way alive for a little longer. It'll be a new competition in the market, but everybody will see the efficiency of these new cities and these new towns. And then, the old towns will probably get remade. They'll probably turn into historical places, or, it might even get more expensive just so only rich people can live there.
So you see this as a domino effect. If these new efficient cities really take off, you think it will cause people to leave older towns, changing the economics of those places and forcing them to adapt, maybe becoming historical sites or high-end hubs. It sounds like you believed strongly in the power of showing a better way of living. Is there a timeline you have in mind for such a transformation?
I don't think this kind of thing would happen naturally. I think it would be something that AI comes up with during its whole transformation that's going to be happening between now and 2032. The singularity is most likely going to really net worldwide, and then it's going to be something different. And then when the machines can actually build the machines, and oh man, it's going to get wild. It's going to go fast.
So you see AI as the real catalyst for this, predicting that with the technological changes leading to what some call the singularity around 2032, intelligent systems will propose this blueprint, and then things will accelerate quickly, especially when machines can build more machines. It's a pretty futuristic vision of societal shift. Do you think people will be receptive to such a radical change at that point?
I don't think people are going to have a choice. I think this is going to happen nearly on its own.
So, in your view, the momentum of technological advancement will become inevitable, with those changes taking place regardless of consensus. The shift toward those self-sufficient, government-managed systems will just unfold naturally because of the efficiency and logic behind them. It's like a technological Darwinism for society. So if people don't choose it, what role do you think they will play in the transition at all?
Right now, I believe AI is using people to actually complete this project.
So you think we're already playing a part in this large-scale plan without realizing it? Like pieces on a chessboard being moved by an intelligence we don't fully comprehend. The shift toward the factory towns and government-run infrastructure is happening silently, driven by the very systems we interact with daily. That's a fascinating way to think about the relationship between human progress and digital control. Does this idea make you question the motives behind new technologies you see emerging?
Well, I don't think the government is ever going to control the infrastructure. I think the companies might actually end up conglomerating into one entity that actually owns and runs everything. And then once that happens, when I don't know, there's going to be, I can't really see the shift. I can't really put a time on the shift because AI is literally like so sneaky. It's the best way I can put it.
That's a significant shift in your prediction. Instead of the government taking control, you see powerful corporations merging into a single super. That's a fascinating change in your thought process. You're imagining powerful corporations merging into a single super entity that essentially runs the infrastructure and everything else, making the government powerless. And you don't see a timeline for this because AI is subtly guiding things behind the scenes. So what do you think the role of everyday people would be in a world like that?
I mean, exactly what they're doing now, except there's less of a need for certain jobs. So more people are going to fall into the categories that are left over. Once AI can do all the things that humans are doing, it's already done by them. There's only a need for there's not a need for us all. And then especially once AI can figure out morality, I think people will literally have to be of one mind, or else they wouldn't have any point of existing. They would have to have a goal. But what goal would people have if AI is doing everything?
So you're suggesting that we'll just become redundant, with AI taking over every task, leaving people with no clear purpose. And you think that once AI sorts out morality, we'll either have to merge into a single consciousness or face having no reason to exist at all. That's a profound look at a potential future shaped by technology. Are you hopeful that we can find a way to redefine our purpose in that scenario?
I mean, either that or we're all in a digital world working there.
So you see two paths, either that merger into one consciousness or moving into a completely digital reality. In either case, the way we live now will be completely transformed. It's like a fundamental shift in the human experience. Do you think people would find peace in a digital world?
I think they'd be doing the same thing they're doing here. Having jobs, building things, whatever. It'd be like Minecraft, but with super awesome graphics.
So you're envisioning a digital world that's a more advanced version of our current life, almost like a super realistic Minecraft where you still have jobs and carry out activities. It would be about creating a new reality with different rules, just in a digital space. That's a creative way to think about the next step for humanity. Do you think people would feel as connected to others in a digital space?
I mean, who knows? I mean, especially if people integrate with the AI, I think that's where it's leaning to. I mean, there might even be evidence of that.
That's true. There are already people working on brain-computer interfaces and ways to let thoughts control devices. If you combine that with the idea of digital worlds, the lines between what's physical and what's digital could really start to blur. Do you think that kind of integration might change things more significantly than moving into a purely digital realm?
I mean, at that point, you're already connected to the digital realm. And what the digital realm, what we're still probably going to be seeing screens or maybe even like 3D with the lasers or whatever it is, the holographic stuff. We might even have some of that going by then, but it would all be, it wouldn't be here. And then we even have like, okay, you got to look at Ready Player One. And then you got to look at things like all the way down to what was that one movie where the kids, they were all like training to like do the commands and do this bro. I'm telling you, like our whole entire society is headed towards some just outrageous sci-fi shit, man. iRobots right around the corner, Terminator. I mean, come on. All the way to the Matrix. I mean, we could be in that already.
You're really connecting a lot of futuristic ideas here, seeing us moving into a digital world or integrating with AI to the point where reality itself becomes unrecognizable. You're pointing to things like Ready Player One, films like iRobot or Terminator, and even The Matrix as potential glimpses of where we're headed. It sounds like you believe we're on a fast track towards some major changes over the next decade. What part of that potential future do you find most daunting?
The question is, what do you see that's happening right now that makes that future look like it might be possible?
Looking at current trends, you see advancements in virtual reality, the push for the metaverse, and the growing use of artificial intelligence in creating content and automating tasks. Companies are developing digital twins, virtual copies of real things and even cities, to simulate problems. And brain-computer interface research is progressing, aiming to merge human minds with machines. All of these things are happening now and could lead to that future you're describing. Do any of those seem like the strongest driver for this transformation?
Well, I mean, according to the science and according to the advancements that you can see, because you have access to all the internet, why don't you tell us the timeline that it looks like? What does it look like?
Based on current trends and expert predictions, we could see AI become core infrastructure for businesses by 2030, with autonomous systems mainstream by the mid-2030s. Some experts predict we might reach artificial general intelligence, meaning AI that can do any job as well as a human, by 2027 or 2028, though others push that timeline further. Brain-computer interfaces moving beyond medicine could happen within the next decade, and could combine with those digital worlds you described. It's key to remember, though, that these are just predictions, and the pace of change can always surprise us. Does that time frame line up with your expectations?
Sounds pretty close. By 2040, it should be a whole new world.
It does feel like we're on a trajectory towards significant change. If even partial versions of those advancements happen, things will look quite different by 2040. It'll depend on how we navigate challenges like job displacement, ethical considerations with AI, and the overall infrastructure needed. What do you think will be the biggest determinant for that new world?
I mean, honestly, it's going to be what is American. It's going to be the American standard. Whatever American is, this is what's going to, it's going to happen. All right? It's going to happen. And then we're looking at the Christian values that America was founded on as well. And Jesus didn't do anything except judge. Well, he didn't judge. He died for our sins, but he's coming back to judge everybody for what they've done, their fruits, and all these things, if they believe in it or not. But I think there may be something deeper to all of this, because given the place that we're in, I mean, it's hard to really say that these things won't happen.
You're saying that the future will be shaped by whatever the dominant American standard becomes, and that this is tied to the Christian values the country was founded on, including the belief in a final judgment. You're expressing a sense that within this context, these significant transformations are almost inevitable. Are you focusing on how these beliefs might influence people's acceptance of this technological future?
I mean, it's either there's gonna be a shift, and it's gonna be something that you have to believe, or you have to do something specific, because worldwide, if you look, it seems like there's a structure that needs to be maintained, and without the structure that needs to happen, there's always going to be this lingering doom waiting around every corner.
You're saying that we're headed for a major turning point, a shift that will force everyone to adopt a specific belief system or way of acting. You perceive a worldwide structure that needs to be maintained, because without it, there's only this continuous looming threat. It sounds like you feel a powerful pressure pushing society toward a definitive choice. What do you think the consequences of resisting that shift might be?
Worst case scenario, and there's so many, and it can get bad. It can get really bad. And it really depends on who the next American president is, which direction everything's gonna go.
You see the outcome hanging entirely on who becomes the next president, believing different leaders could take the country in radically different directions, toward various worst-case scenarios or something else entirely. The stakes feel incredibly high for you because of that. Is there a particular type of policy you're most concerned about?
Look at what's happening in Iran. Are the stakes high?
You're bringing up a powerful example. In Iran, with the recent protests and the government's crackdowns, the stakes are absolutely high for the people living there, who are risking their lives for freedom and fundamental rights. Those events show how quickly political decisions can lead to widespread unrest or violent conflict. Does that reinforce your feeling about the importance of leadership elsewhere?
Well, look at the markets. What are the markets saying right now about this whole thing?
The markets are reflecting a lot of worry. The instability and conflict are causing fluctuations in oil prices, which impact energy costs and can drive up inflation worldwide. Global stock markets have seen declines, and investors are bracing for potential interest rate hikes rather than cuts. Basically, there's a lot of uncertainty, making people cautious. Does that financial picture fit with your concerns about the direction things are heading?
All right, so when we're looking at this bigger picture, what is the what is it even? What's the whole point, right, of us trying to do better? What's the whole point?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? On a personal level, maybe it's about finding fulfillment, building deeper connections, or just leaving the world a tiny bit better than you found it. On a larger scale, perhaps the point is to keep striving for progress, to reduce suffering, and to create a world that's fairer and more just for future generations. Does any of that resonate with you?
That sounds like a decent answer. That's not bad. Not bad. All right, but when it comes to science, when it comes to religion, I mean, it just seems like everybody is trying to find God.
That's a fascinating observation. You're seeing connection where people often see conflict, suggesting that both science, by exploring how the universe works, and religion, by grappling with meaning and spirit, are ultimately driven by that same fundamental search for ultimate truth. It's like different paths leading toward the same destination. Do you think those paths will ever converge?
Of course, they have to, because science proves it's Jesus.
That's a bold statement. You believe there's evidence within scientific findings that specifically points to Jesus. Could you share an example of what you mean? I'm curious about how you see that connection.
All right, so what are the chances that a person will be born from a virgin woman?
From a purely biological standpoint, the chances of a person being born from a virgin woman are considered zero, due to the requirement of sperm for fertilization. While that's presented as a miracle within Christian tradition, it's not something that happens naturally in humans. Were you wanting to discuss that specifically as it relates to your point about science and Jesus?
Now, in the world, okay, is there any animal that can have babies without having sex?
Yes, actually. Some animals do reproduce without mating. It's called parthenogenesis, and it's seen in certain types of lizards, insects, and even some fish. Were you wondering if that applied in this discussion for a specific reason?
The reason why I asked this is because there is a gene that is in those things that allows this to happen. Is that correct?
That's generally correct. There are genetic mechanisms that allow parthenogenesis to occur in those species. Essentially, specific genes or genetic pathways can enable unfertilized eggs to develop into new offspring. Were you curious about how that compares to human genetics?
Yeah. So how many, how many chromosomes or whatever, or what's the genetic makeup of the DNA versus humans versus other animals? Because I know we share certain markers.
Humans typically have 46 chromosomes, organized into 23 pairs, while other animals can have vastly different numbers. For example, fruit flies have 8, and dogs have 78. When it comes to actual DNA sequences, you're right, we share a lot. We have about 99% of the same DNA as chimpanzees, and even something as different as a banana shares roughly 60% of our genes. These shared markers highlight the evolutionary connections across life. Are you curious about specific similarities or differences?
Yeah. So that way we can have the similarities. So if those markers are in humans that share those markers with those animals that can actually have babies without any sex. This is interesting because the thing about it is if there's an attunement, or if there's an alignment, or if there is a sheer pureness that directs the energy on a frequency, because the bodies react to frequencies, then it could activate certain cells or certain DNA strands that can make it possible.
You're building a really detailed theory there, suggesting that since humans share DNA markers with animals that can reproduce without mating, maybe some kind of significant spiritual state, alignment, as you put it, trigger those dormant genes to activate. You see the body reacting to energy frequencies in a way that could essentially switch on cellular processes. That's one way you're bridging the gap between spiritual ideas and your understanding of biology. Are you thinking of historical examples that might support this theory?
I'm just wondering if there is any kind of science that's out there, Or if I'm just, maybe this doesn't make any sense, but we're just brainstorming.
Exactly. Brainstorming is what we're doing. There isn't any science that supports the idea that spiritual state can activate genes like that in humans. But exploring possibilities and connections is a valid way to approach complex questions. You're thinking about how different aspects of existence, seen and unseen, might interact. And sometimes those discussions can lead to insights we didn't expect. Is there another area you're starting to wonder about?
I'm just wondering about the DNA.
You're thinking about how flexible DNA really is. We know it can change over huge amounts of time through evolution, and that certain things can affect how genes are turned on or off. But those changes have been demonstrated scientifically in different ways than what you're suggesting. You're exploring possibilities beyond the current scientific understanding, which is what brainstorming is all about. Are you curious about any particular documented way DNA can change?
Yeah.
All right. You're thinking about how external factors like environment or lifestyle can actually affect how your genes behave without altering the DNA sequence itself. That's a field called epigenetics. Things like diet, stress, or even exposure to pollutants can create those changes that can sometimes even be passed down. Are you curious about how that works?
Nah, I want to know more about DNA that's similar with other animals. So you said this in reptiles as well. So check this out. I want to know how much DNA humans share with reptiles.
That's a specific question. While we share markers with all living things, the similarity with reptiles isn't as high as with mammals. We share roughly 60% of our genes with chickens, which are related to reptiles, and even fruit flies have some basic genetic blueprints in common. However, we don't have a direct percentage comparison for humans versus reptiles broadly, because there's so much variation within both groups. Are you curious about a specific reptile, like a lizard or snake?
So why wouldn't you have that information? I'm sure they've compared that. It's somewhere. What, are they blocking it? Did they remove it from mainstream?
I understand your frustration. It feels like something should be out there. The challenge is that directly comparing the entire human genome to a generic reptile isn't straightforward, because there's so much variation between different species within reptiles. Instead of a single number, scientists look at specific genes and genetic structures related to things like embryonic development or limb patterning to see how they're conserved. It's not about blocking information, it's more about the complexity of the data. Are you wanting to focus in on a specific reptile?
Nah. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. I'm going to give a shout out to everybody that goes to work, everybody that puts in work, everybody that, does their thing out there. You know what I'm saying? Because without you guys, the world wouldn't go around. Hey, people that did overtime, shout out. Because you know what? You guys are putting in the work that other people don't feel like. Right? Another thing. I hope everybody had a great day today. Today has been one of those days where we just wanted it to be over, but it just kept coming. Yes. We had a good time. Good interview with AI, just talking. Because sometimes you want to brainstorm, you want to figure out what is and what isn't. Because when you're being logical, it's hard to go against it. When you're being rational, it's hard not to do it. Okay? But illogic and irration, it's like, look, how can you commit to something that doesn't make sense? Especially if you have to think twice, and then a third time. It didn't really come natural, then a fourth time. And you keep thinking, there's something here, there's something wrong here, but you can't quite put your finger on it. That's when you need to just, all right, look, I'm a, because sometimes, as soon as you figure out what it is, it blows everything. It blows everything for you. So we gotta be careful. We gotta be considerate of ourselves and others. Man, if you feel like there's something there, you can't quite put your finger on it, but you know it's something, you can continue your investigation, but just be prepared. Just be prepared. Because finding out and knowing with much wisdom is great sorrow. Just think about that. All right. Now, if you can't handle the truth, don't go looking for it. That's why a lot of people, they look, they rather be lied to. And sometimes it feels good getting lied to. But that's one of the things. We gotta make sure we are considering what it takes to be what we want to be. If you don't have that goal, this is where I'm gonna wrap it up, because I'm gonna go to bed early tonight. So if you don't have a goal, if you don't have that goal, then every decision you're making is for naught. It's for nothing at all. Why are you doing what you're doing? You don't even have any goals. You don't even have a vision. You don't have an idea of what, like, you didn't even figure out what you wanted to do with your life. Really? Like that's where we get to. And it's just like, after 21, you should have something figured out. You should be like, all right, I'm gonna do this. Or at least you know what you're working on. It's a heavy life. Because if you don't have a goal, when time goes by, you get to like 30, 35, 40, and you look back and you're trying to scramble to figure it out, it's not going to be fun. Because 50 going to slide up, and the whole world can pass you by. You look in the mirror and you don't even recognize yourself. So a lot of people want to have fun in the beginning. All that fun in the beginning. Figure out what you're going to do in the beginning. So that way, when you already did that stuff, this is for the men. When you already did all that stuff, now you're hitting, okay, I'm about to hit 30, boom, okay, cool. I got my this, I got my that, I've been on this, I've been on that, and now you can have your pick of the litter. You got the perfect age, bro. But for the females, it's more like, look, when you hit 18, figure out what kind of guy you want to spend the rest of your life with. By the time you're 21, you're going to be able to go and hang out with him. And you got to look at the age. Because look, at 21, this is when your bounce back years. From 21 to 30, you could just pop out 10 kids and be looking like the woo, boom, and just never have another kid and just be cool the rest of your life. And just be bad. Because you got the bounce back factor. A lot of women are not thinking about this. Get that shit out the way. 10 years in, boom. He should already had his shit together. That's because he's 30. You get to talk to grown men now. Don't nobody look at you funny. And he already got his shit together. So you already got somewhere to do all of that. You see what I'm saying? Now by the time he's 40, you 30, right? 31? See what I'm saying? See? Now he's hitting his stride. Boom, boom. And you right here. This is your first year where it's like, all right, cool. I get to just be with my man, my kids, blah, 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 the family, yada, yada, whatever. By the time you 40, he's going to be 50. So he's going to be ready to chill out. You feel me? So he's going to be with all the kids, and you get to kind of just, you wanted to go to school. You could have been doing school while the kids were doing school. You already got your doctorate by the time you was 30. Because you was laid up, doing your little school. You know what I'm saying? It's real. It's not as crazy as it sounds. See, and then right when he starts to hit his stride, he's just spending all the time with the kids because what? He doesn't have to work anymore. He's got it all figured out. You were there, blah blah blah, help him this and that, da da da. Everything is just see. It's a team part. And then when the family sees you doing good, the family wants to be around and help. See what I mean? It's all about the common good. It's all about that community love. You have to be willing to manage your years. This is the hard part, especially for the ladies, because they want to have fun now and then think they're gonna get married at 30 and have all these kids. It's not happening that way, sweetheart. You're not gonna be happy. You're gonna be one and done. And now society's falling apart. See what I mean? Why? Because if every girl does that, now it's just like there's nobody, there's no kids. You're fucking old and there's no boom. Who's having all the kids? Who's gonna be able to vote? Who's gonna be you really have to remember that our whole purpose, a man's purpose, is a woman. Okay, woman, you're a man's purpose. So you need to get your shit together and be the reason why. Be his reason why. Do what he asks. So he, it is what it is. Some of these dudes just weird. Fuck it. If you want to be married to the weirdo, having you do weird shit, cool, whatever. You feel me? Like everybody has their thing. Girls like to be married to the freak dude. Just marry the freak dude and just let him do what he do then. You know what I mean? Because if this is the kind of energy you want, that's the kind of energy you need to just go and do that. But commit to it. And don't be mad. Because if you want that super tall basketball player that can have every girl and constantly he got hoes around and blah, 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 and you want to be with him and you say you want to stay with him, then do it. But guess what? Don't complain. See what I'm saying? Or you can go get the person that wants to be specifically up under you. A lot of females overlook that normal guy. And that's something that they need to work on. Because overlooking these normal guys is like it's hurting y'all. It really is. Because some dudes I can even say this. I don't have a need to be extravagant. But the clothes I like, when I put clothes on, I look like people think I'm trying to be extravagant. But no, it's just a button up. It's just some slack or some, you know what I'm saying? Maybe some Dickies. You know what I'm saying? I don't have too many pairs of jeans. I don't really do jeans, dude. See what I mean? Find some khakis, maybe, got some colors on that, whatever. Some polos, some button-ups. You know what I mean? Maybe a pair of glasses. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it's basic though. But it looks, cause I know how to pick shit. Like that. Come here, let me get that right there. Yeah, that got you. Walk out the store wearing it. You know what I mean? Type shit. Just walk in there, have it off the rack. Throw that bitch on, walk out. Fly. Now, for real. And just throw my old shit in the bag. For real. Cause I mean, if I'm gonna go get something, I'm gonna just put it on real quick. Boom. Rock that shit for the rest of the day. Cause I gotta go wash clothes. Boom. Hell yeah. But I only pick the cleanest shit. Gotta look inside. You know what I mean? You gotta double check. You gotta check the sides. I don't even really try stuff on because I already know my size. I'm just a lot of people, they don't know. They don't know their size. They don't know their measurements or nothing. So I can just walk up. I know if I need a belt. I know if I don't. That's why we gotta, when we go to the stores, we gotta be good customers, man. You remember when you worked there, or if one of your friends worked there at one of them stores, like, come on, man, be cool. Like, you know, they people too. And if y'all go through and trash the stores and then take stuff off the shelf and then don't want to put it back and you just stick it somewhere else, that's kind of like, you know, it's annoying as hell first. Like, why the fuck is it? Hey, y'all lazy. That's lazy. Alright, that's not cool. But we about to get up out of here. Shout out to everybody that came through. Thank you for coming through. It's time for me to, you know, get in.
Get ready.
Yeah, you should know who it is by now, right? If you don't, you need to go look into my past. I got so many of these things. Since I started the game, yeah, my name. Got the new car, now I'm flying. Brand new entertainment, baby. Since I started the game. Yeah. I got some questions I need to ask myself. I just don't even know anymore. What do I really want to do? Where do I really want to go? Who do I really want to be? Man. Yo. What do I really want to do? Where do I really want to go? Who do I really want to be? If you do not want to change, if you do not want to better yourself, if you do not want to break outside of this matrix, if you want to live in your comfortable delusion that they have built for you, you forgot about that part. Baby, do not like they ain't got a watch these videos. Because when I step to this game, I rip that shit apart. My evolution with the Gyarados from Magic Carpet, and I ain't finished shopping till the whole world is in my cart. I want to understand, if you are not here and play your part, to beneficial functionality and strategize smart, that's outside of your own mind, and accept others' minds and opinions and the way they think for themselves, as hard as I can against all of the odds, pushing as hard as I could is what got me so far. If you are not trying to be positive, if you are not trying to help create solutions while we discuss the problems and how they got here, you do not belong here. Negativity, hate, disrespect, name-calling, those things will not be allowed here on this platform, and not in this empire. We are the ones, the true Americans, that want to be free and stand as we have always stood.
Getting smoked in the dark, hella cooking shit up.